Mike Moore Media.
On the media line, I have Master Trooper Brandon Baker, NC Department of Public Safety, North Carolina State Highway Patrol. Trooper Baker, how are you, sir?
I'm good, Mike. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great as well. Well, we're being told to stay off the highways, don't travel for Thanksgiving and Christmas, stay at home. But people are traveling, the airports are full, the highways are busy. Give us some good advice, what we need to do if people are out there traveling, how we can just make sure we have safe travels. Trooper Baker.
All right. First, like you and I were discussing a few minutes ago, we want everyone to adhere and follow those best practices that are set forth by our state health officials and the CDC as it relates to COVID-19. We want to make sure folks are staying healthy. And part of that when they are on the road is making sure that they're adhering to those safe driving practices, like making sure they're wearing their seatbelt, everyone in the vehicle. We want to make sure everyone is driving the speed limit and limiting the distractions when they're the driver, and also remaining sober behind the wheel. Those four behaviors, like we were discussing a few minutes ago, were present at nearly 93% of all fatal crashes that occurred in our state last year. So four very preventable things that contribute to almost 100% of all fatal crashes that we investigate.
Wow. We want to go over those again before we finish up. And that's just some common sense things, but sometimes common sense seems to go out the window in situations, unfortunately. I want to talk about distractions, one of the four factors there, because, wow, there are more distractions than ever now in driving a vehicle, aren't there?
Absolutely. I mean, if you think distractions come in many forms, it's not just the cell phone, which most people tend to think of as an idea of a distraction, which it is. But there's numerous things. If you think about passengers in the vehicle, if you're thinking in times of COVID-19, most restaurants are closed for dining in, so folks are eating behind the wheel more. That's a very dangerous thing, but we don't really think about it ahead of time. And then, adjusting the climate control or navigation or anything in that vehicle that could be a distraction, taking your eyes off the road for just a split second. If you think on up in your way, up on US 29, the speed limit's 70 miles an hour on that highway. You're going 102 feet per second. So if you just take your eyes off the road for just 2 seconds, you've traveled over 200 feet, and you're really not taking in the road around you. And a lot of things can really change in 2 seconds. So it's just not worth it to allow that distraction to have the main attention.
And I've heard that number before. Give us that again. That's amazing when I hear that number.
Yeah, at 70 miles an hour, you're traveling 102 and a fraction amount of feet per second. So, and the typical reaction time that most people have is about 3/4 to 1 second. So you're going already 102 feet by the time your mind is taking in everything that's going around you before you're reacting to a hazardous situation. And just distractions we're not created to have that and to try to juggle all those different distractions when we're behind the wheel. We can't compete with that. So it's so important to make sure that we're focused on driving. We're focused on being the driver we want, meeting our family and meeting us. So that really just starts with making sure that you're focused on what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wow, that's amazing. How are we doing with seatbelt use in North Carolina?
Since the past several years, our seatbelt usage has went up more and more. And I can remember whenever I started in 2007 that we had around an 85% seatbelt usage rate. And, that's changed, thankfully, over the years. It's went up, but also our seatbelt fatalities have fluctuated over the past several years. So now, looking at what it's like now, we're over 90% seatbelt usage, but we're still having, like I say, in last year, 2019, we had over 430 people that died because they didn't have them on. And that's been a decreasing amount, but 0 is the only acceptable number I can think of the amount of fatalities that we see on our roadways. Just when someone can't go home to their families because they weren't wearing a seatbelt, it's an incredibly tragic thing to go to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, and I think about you and others out there with the North Carolina State Highway Patrol and tragic accidents that you respond to, and that's got to be so difficult in those situations when people are involved in a fatality.
It is, because there's nothing that we can do. I can understand a lot of drivers get frustrated whenever they get stopped and they receive a ticket or something like that for whatever occurred. But really, if folks will just start looking at that and examining that situation and knowing that's a second chance that so many other people didn't get. So it's just really to get their attention. It's nothing more than, we want to make sure they're going home safe to their family. It's hard for that to translate into that at the moment, but that's really our main mission. We want to make sure our roads are as safe as possible. We have to travel on them. Our families travel on them. You travel on them. We just want to make sure everybody gets to where they need to be safely.
Yeah. I was on 29 yesterday from Eden to Greensboro to a doctor's appointment, and, it was a busy stretch of highway there at that 70 mile per hour speed limit, that's for sure. And I'm kind of thinking about all the things that were going on just when I was on the road about this time 24 hours ago. We're in the middle of the Thanksgiving Click It or Ticket statewide enforcement campaign. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's a campaign that we partner with the governor's Highway Safety Program, and that's designated, by state officials in the Department of Transportation. But we, along with countless other law enforcement agencies during specific times across the year, or throughout the year, rather, we will focus in on targeting specific violations. And this week is a seatbelt campaign, so focusing increased amount of presence on enforcing that, as well as making sure that the public's aware of that campaign. Reminding them the importance of putting on their seatbelt. I know if you've ever been in a crash, I know I've been in a few. You never know when they're going to happen. It's always a surprise event, and so making sure you have that seatbelt on ahead of time is one of the greatest things you can do to ensure your safety and the other passengers that could perhaps be with you. And then, if you think about it, our vehicles have numerous airbags. It's designed to work with those, not against those. So making sure that they're buckled up, that's the best thing they can do.
Mm-hmm. Sure, it certainly is. Okay, looking ahead to the new year, are there any laws that are changing that we need to talk about now, or maybe later? Some things that are coming up that affect us on the highways?
Yeah, that new laws go into effect on December the 1st. So after that period, we could discuss on what would be the main thing. Typically, most motor vehicle laws don't change from year to year, or there's not fairly new ones that be more things that a sheriff's office or a local police department would be investigating and enforcing. There's always amendments and updates to those laws, primarily more to motor vehicle, but there are changes that do occur every year that can relate to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember years ago there were just routine driver's license checks. I haven't been in one of those in a long time. Do you still do those? We do. And with today, that we're trying to make sure that our members are staying safe. But sometimes we do those to target impaired driving. Sometimes we will do that as another part of a special campaign, whether it be child passenger safety or whatnot. However, a lot of that depends on the amount of availability of personnel, and that oftentimes takes a lot of resources to make happen. But right now, that's the safety of our folks and the safety of the public is the main primary concern as it relates to that. Yeah, and like you're saying, I guess COVID-19 has changed that whole dynamic as well. Before we finish up, is there anything else you wanted to mention? But I want us to certainly go over those 4 factors again that you mentioned. I think they're so important.
Well, I guess as it relates to Thanksgiving travel, typically the peak travel days are going to be tomorrow on Wednesday, and then on Sunday. We want folks to, leave early as possible. Our folks are going to be primarily targeting all major interstates in our state to make sure that all road users have a safe road to travel on. And another thing folks need to be mindful and aware of are deer. Deer collisions increase this time of the year, and we see an enormous amount of those, so folks just be mindful of those, scanning the road as they're traveling with that. And then also the move-over law. This is a law that not many folks know about. It's been around for about 18 years now, and it greatly protects all public safety personnel. We've had since July, we've had 3 state troopers in North Carolina struck while in doing their jobs, and one was severely injured. Thankfully, was able to survive it. So when folks see an emergency vehicle stopped on a multi-lane highway like US 29, they need to move over to the next available lane. They need to make sure, and if they can't do that because of traffic, they need to slow down to a safe speed. So that greatly increases our safety and allows us to be able to go home to our families.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You mentioned deer. We had 2 accidents, 2 deer vehicle collisions last night. I did a story last week. I can't remember if it was Wednesday or Thursday, but I think we had 7 or 8 deer accidents in the county that evening, overnight, that 911 called. So, we got to be aware of that for sure. Those deer are everywhere. Yeah, we're in the city limits here, and they're in our yard here. So they're really out in the rural areas too. Give us those 4 factors again before we finish and contributing to accidents.
Okay, so of the 1,452 people that died in 2019, 93% nearly of those died because they were. It was a speeding-related crash. It was an impairment, whether drugs or alcohol, unbelted occupants, and distracted driving. So basically, those 4 factors were present at nearly 93% of all of the crashes that occurred involving a fatality. Now that could be someone was victim to that. That could be the person that was actually speeding and it caused the crash. So, but it was involved at that many crashes that were fatal.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that should really resonate with folks to know how dangerous it is to do that. But also, even more importantly, how preventable all that is to begin with.
Preventable is the key word there. That's important.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you and the troop for being out there on the highways here in North Carolina protecting us, and we appreciate that service. And Trooper Baker, it's good to talk to you, and we'll check in again another time.
All right. Sounds great, Mike. Hope you have a good Thanksgiving.
Okay. You too, sir. Let me give you some places to check out online. Website, North Carolina Department of Transportation. Lots of good resources there. And then the Facebook page, North Carolina State Highway Patrol. Just a few I wanted to mention before we finish up. And with us on this segment, Master Trooper Brandon Baker, NC Department of Public Safety, North Carolina State Highway Patrol. Please have a safe holiday season. Be careful out there.